Hello, welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you have not seen these videos before, welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness in the highest levels of love light. I'm just going to go into a little flow and just share kind of what's been coming through for me this morning. Yes, it is morning in my office. Couple things that are coming through is that we've got a lot of distortions going on in the field right now. And so what I keep being shown is in order to clear our own distortions, we really have to focus on us right now. And that's a big message that's been coming through for quite some time for me. I mean, it's an ongoing message really, but I'll just kind of go into the space from there. And so as we sit within our own self-reflection, as we see what is reflecting back to us as the self, as we recognize the disharmony that is within the pool that we are all swimming in together, within the pools of frequency, conductivity, expansibility, explainability, we find ourselves wishing to commune with one another in a different way. And yet we must find our own way before we begin to communicate. I'm hearing that some are at a loss for words because they're not used to speaking in this new, I'm hearing new definitions and new definitive ways. For many of us have been lost in the land before time, so to speak. Lost in the land before time created such density from one perspective. For many of us are time travelers from another perspective, and yet many of us are being called to change how it is that we perceive time. We are being called to change how it is that we perceive everything within this new timescape, within this reality that many have tried to escape. Yet there is no escape truly from our truth from one perspective. There is no escape from the truth of who it is that we are. And yet many of us are beginning to tune into that truth and are having difficulty finding our way. Finding our way in this new weave, if you will, in these new shapes, in these new sizes, in these new understandings of humanity. For our gifts and abilities are beyond the vastness that we have seen in the past. For we have moved out of the past and are falling into a new regime, if you will, regimen. I'm seeing this as a play on words. And I'm being guided to remind everybody that my playful words are not meant to bring up fear, because the word regime has fear attached to it. And the reminder that I'm getting from the team is essentially, I just rolled right into it. Good morning. That we are the new regime. The more that we find our own path and our own truth is what ignites the freedom of truth within. And this has to do with us doing the work, the regimen, us actually following our truth, our hearts, and tuning into these higher perceptions and perceptibilities, the ability to perceive from these higher quantifications, the ability to quantify or to uplift. So I'm seeing add the numbers up, to add to our value, to uplift each other in our own value, and represent the human collective, represent humanity, team humanity, represent how it is that humanity is collectively meant to interact with one another. For if we begin to dislocate, so to speak, from the entire elbow or joint from the community of mankind, we begin to create dislocating patterns. I'm hearing this has to do with dislocation. That's a play on words, something to do with physics. It also, I'm seeing many of us are bilocating and translocating, which is also another topic, but it's also, we're being guided to not just be in those outer realms. It's important for us to be really in our inner realm in order to find ourselves able to stabilize as a human. So many of us are being pulled in multiple directions and finding the chaos that is around us to be distracting to our greater expression. Yet we are here to remind one another that we are our greatest expression. We are expressing what it is that we came here to express, and the time to do that is now. This does not require us to fall into line with any of the old adages or regimes. These are plays on words. This requires us to be the new lineup, to line up in alignment with our highest attributes, for us to pay tribute to ourselves and our higher realms, yet not to fall into a habit of paying homage to old, I'm hearing linguistics, belief systems, patterns, organizations. And this is a challenge for a lot. What I'm seeing is that, where do we fit in? Where do I fit into this? Because even those that were really like fired up about the political realm or regime are kind of lost a little bit in that as well. We are being invited to relinquish the old flame, if you will, the old fires, relinquish the old ball and chain from one perspective. For some of us are finding that the old directive, no matter what those patterns may elicit, so certain directives were eliciting a chemical response and people were becoming addicted to them. They were becoming habitually drawn into certain conversation topics. And what I'm being shown is, over and over again, the question I'm always guided to ask is, go deeper. What is beyond whatever story we've been really plugged into, whether it be social, political, economic, scientific, all of it. And ultimately what it boils down to right now is the human consciousness. And so seeing beyond whatever paradigm that we've attached ourselves to, the ball and chain, right? We've attached ourselves to a particular adage, belief system. This adds up to this, therefore this must be that. So the logical analytics, and we're really being guided to feel into the new mapping system. For we have been upgraded. Our abilities have profoundly become interactive with the new matrix, with the new grid system, with the new protocol, with the new harmonious interaction in this human compatibility zone. So what I'm seeing is that we're in this different place, and if we can pull ourselves, extract the nuggets, extract the juice, and pull ourselves out of these toxic environments, toxic patterns, we can then recognize the new pattern that is already overlaid or playing within us. And it's just a matter of interpretation. It's a matter of, I share this when I'm working with, in sessions with beautiful light workers and humans, is that oftentimes I'll work with someone and I can see the patterns that are pulling them off track. I can see that they've already got whatever it is they're trying to tune into. They're just distracted sometimes by all of the chatter. And as soon as you can field out that chatter, and I do this too. It's not, I go through, but the difference is, and this is my saying, I say it all the time, I acknowledge it, I realize it, and then I release it, integrate it, do whatever I need to do, and then I create from there. So are we creating from those habitual frequencies and patterns, or are we creating from the new abilities that we have access to right now? And one of those habitual patterns and belief systems is that we don't have access to that we are not capable, that humanity is lost, that Earth is completely, these are ideas and beliefs that are, not to say that they are incorrect. So I'm being guided to just remind everybody, I have like 5 minutes left here, it's maybe about 8 minutes, to remind everyone that we are multidimensional beings. So some of these feelings and thoughts or memories that are coming up, as in humanity is lost, are based on habitual thinking, programming that we're plugging into, belief systems that we've come into a habit of tuning into, or it could be that our memories are coming online and we're remembering catastrophic events that our soul is tied to. So when I first started having these awakenings, I was seeing things that were not pleasant. I still see things sometimes in dream time and in sessions or in my own memory of realities that my soul is connected to that are not in this timeline. So that's something, just a little multidimensionality. If we are bilocating, translocating, remote viewing, doing any of those extra sensory, some people don't realize they're doing that. So that's where the work comes in. It takes us being conscious of our consciousness. And when we can become conscious and create from after we've acknowledged and realized. So when I say realize, you're pulling it into reality. So some of those realities are real, but they're not real in this timeline. And yes, we are multidimensional. So while they could be a presentation of a future probability, that future probability may be harnessed to and attached to an old ball and chain that we have stored so much energy in or placed so much belief in that it's difficult for us to detach from that and still live our lives objectively and rather than subjectively. So being subjected to that particular belief system that then pulls us towards that reality. So this is a very multidimensional description, but if we're, for example, if we keep tuning into the belief that this is going to happen, we are creating it. So we're being really invited to pull away from, back from, detach from, disentangle from, so that we can be a clear source, a clear channel for other realities and potentials that are perhaps being that feel unattainable right now, if that makes sense. So I'm going to end on that note, even though I could keep going and going and going, and someday I will. Just our own practice is what is important right now. I had a little miniature meltdown the other day because I was feeling a little torn between realities, between clients, between sessions, between some realizations that I had about myself, some memories that surfaced from other timelines. So this is happening to all of us on some level. I tend to just go in full throttle and see all these things that are happening on this level. And that helps me as I process and work through them. Not only does it help me gain clarity about my own trajectory and where I'm at, but it also helps me when I'm working with clients because I've been there, done that, right? How did I work through it? And then I'll do another video on how I work through these things, certainly. But the message for this video is work on them. Do what you need to do to find your own path and not be hooked to I keep seeing a ball and chain married to a belief system, to a partner, to a value system, to an idea of what our value system should be. Even if that idea was from 6 months ago, even if that idea was from 2020, and we think that, well, that's what's going on now. It isn't, from what I'm being shown. From one perspective, it is, if we believe it is, blah, 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 you know, those stories. But from another perspective, what if it's not? So rather than saying, well, it is, okay, what if it's not? Then what? How are we working towards breaking free of any linear projections, belief systems that limit us from our fuller potential, from our fullest potential, from us seeing this gift in the human potential and the human collective, because it is beautiful. And there are those of us that can see it. And if you're not one of them right now, that's okay. being gentle and patient with ourselves is key, because I can go shift from not being able to see it in one moment and then having clarity, having clear cognizance and clairaudience, tune back in, because I went back into my heart and I felt through the jungle of distractions and through the jungle of the mind and through the jungle of feeling not enough, you know, those things that we all experience as a human walking between worlds. And then I come back into attunement with who I really am, and I go, oh wow, it's beautiful. But I don't always feel that way. And it's acknowledging and recognizing where I am at that moment, so that I'm not continually creating, and I'm being shown the ball and chain on a ship, throwing that overboard and falling under the water and not being able to cut ourselves away from a sinking reality system. All right, I'm going to end on that note, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's work. This has been the ongoing theme. It's work, and it's beautiful, and it's frustrating, and it's exciting, and it's emotional, and sometimes it's just peaceful and blissful. We're all in a different moment to moment, sharing in this collective expression, but in our own individual and unique way. So that's a whole other message that I'll go into a different time later. I've talked about that before. Just because we're a collective, you know, just because the ship is going this way doesn't mean we have to. And that's difficult for some people to follow as well. But that's what my guidance team shares, and everything is from my own perspective, my own journey that I then bring to the table, so it can be kind of introduced into another perspective. So, in love and light, guys. Namaste.